What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Talking Sports Podcast right here on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. It's been a month. It's been a while. The last time you guys saw me or heard me, it was golf season. It's still golf season, but it was the Open Preview. It was the 2026 Open Preview, but it's football time. It's the NFL time. It's college football time. So this is going to be not three-part because they're different topics, but it's going to be a three kind of football week. So we're going to go 3 straight weeks when you're going to see a podcast every Tuesday. Today's episode, NFC Preview. Next week's will be College Football Preview and then AFC Preview. And then obviously stay tuned on social media as always. Follow us on Talking Sports PD on X and on Instagram. See our rankings, some social media videos I do, breaking down stuff. Follow us on those platforms as always. Let's get into this because this is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a long one, and it's going to be awesome. Okay, so if I'm looking up, I'm just looking at my notes. So we're talking about the NFC. This is a 2026 NFC preview. I'm going to give you guys division breakdowns. Then we're going to do playoff predictions. Going to go quickly through the playoff predictions because how I always see this is, yes, it's fun to do playoff predictions in August. I think it's more fun to do division predictions and outlooks on each team. But we're going to do a playoff podcast. We're going to do playoff episodes for the wild card, divisional, and NFC and AFC championship rounds. Why? Try to predict it now, of course, but obviously it's more fun when you see who's in it. Who made the playoffs in 2025? Let's start there. Seahawks were the 1 seed. They obviously won the Super Bowl. Bears were the 2 seed. Eagles 3, Panthers 4. Those are the 4 division winners. And then the 3 wild card teams were the Rams, 49ers, and the Packers. If I'm looking up, like I said, my notes are above me. And then storylines, NFC storylines. Rams added Myles Garrett, and they added Trent McDuffie. 49ers signed Mike Evans. Cardinals drafted Jeremiah Love in the top 5. Eagles traded away A.J. Brown. Giants hired Harbaugh as their coach. Vikings recently named Kyle Murray their starting quarterback. Panthers signed Jalen Phillips. Seahawks lost Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs, the Super Bowl MVP, but they drafted Jadarian Price at the end of the first round. And the NFC East fell in love with the Ohio State players in the first round outside of the Eagles. Arvell Reese to the Giants, Sonny Styles to the Commanders, and then Caleb Downs to the Cowboys. That was what happened in the NFC. We'll do the same thing for the AFC when we get there. But I'm going to give you a division-by-division breakdown, and then we're going to go to the playoffs, and then we're going to call it. It's going to be a fun one. Let's get right into it. NFC East. So last year, the winner of the NFC East was the Philadelphia Eagles. They became the 3 seed. They were the only team from this division that made the playoffs. So I'm going to go down my 4 teams, my predictions. We're going to start worst to best. So we're going to start with the Giants. I have the Giants finishing 7-9. And you might think, oh boy. Well, I do think the 7-9 is going to look like a different type of 7-9. I think the Giants are going to be a competitive football team. I think Jackson Dart has a chance to take a year 2 step. I think Harbaugh is an upgrade at head coach, obviously over Brian Daboll. I don't know if I'm in love with what they have outside of Malik Nabers. They're interesting at running back with Cam Scatterbo coming back from a serious injury. You also have Malik Nabers coming back from a serious injury. And then you throw in Tyrone Tracy. And then I think they have nice pieces on defense. I think Arvell Reese is really good. Their D-line is ferocious. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, they're going – and Abdul Carter as well. Don't forget about him. You throw in Arvell Reese. I think their defense is, especially up front, is going to be awesome. I think my biggest question for them is, 1, their secondary, and 2, like, do they have enough playmakers outside of Malik Nabers? And then Malik Nabers, how does he come back from a serious injury? And then I don't know if they're going to have a consistent enough running game. You got to remember, this is a tough NFC. They're in a really tough division. When I did my NFC predictions today, I was like, this is tough. I think it's going to be a good year for the Giants. Excuse me, they're not 7-9. They can't be 7-9. Excuse me, 8-9. The Giants are going to be 8-9, and definitely not 7-9. I'm sorry, that's called me typing it in wrong. The Giants are going to be 8-9, and then obviously they will be the 14, but based off tiebreaker, because you see it here next. The Commanders are at 8-9. That's just me inputting teams wrong there. That is my bad. It won't happen. I made sure. I'm looking right down to the rest. Does everyone add up to 17? They do. I just messed up the Giants. So the Giants are coming in at 8-9. And then the Commanders are coming at 8-9 as well. They just win on the tiebreaker. There's not much there to talk about there. It's been interesting with Jaden Daniels in the last couple of days, but put that aside. I think like 2 years ago, the Commanders are a team that made the NFC Championship. Then you fast forward to last year, and they really struggle. Like, they did not have a good year. Dan Quinn's, it's a big question for Dan Quinn coming into this year. It's a big year 3 for Jaden Daniels. They have Terry McLaurin. Like, they have talent. They brought in Stephon Diggs. I think that's a good receiving core. They added Sonny Styles. I just don't know if they're talented enough defensively. I think Jaden Daniels is going to elevate them. I see them having a competitive year, but I like them at 8-9. Then finishing second at 11-6 and being the 6th seed overall in the NFC East or NFC is the Philadelphia Eagles. They traded away A.J. Brown. And guess what? They got better because A.J. Brown was a cancer. The Patriots fans will find out really soon who A.J. Brown really is. Like, he just wasn't a winning player, if that makes sense. But he's a talented receiver. So you have Devontae Smith. You have Saquon Barkley. You also have Mekhi Lemon. They still have a good O-line. They're really good up front. They're really good in the secondary. This is a team that's only a couple years removed from winning the Super Bowl. The biggest X factor here is what quarterback play you get out of Jalen Hurts. Because if you ask anybody, 2025 version of Jalen Hurts is not good enough. I think they get a better version of that. I'm not saying they get an elite year from Jalen Hurts, but what you saw in 2025 from Jalen Hurts is not good enough. I think he has a better year. I like them going 11-6. And maybe shocking people, winning the NFC East, being the number 2 overall seed in the NFC is the Dallas Cowboys at 11-6. I like what they did this offseason, and it wasn't a ton. But I think there's a year 1 to year 2 growth for Schottenheimer head coach. They're loaded on offense, right? Like when you have Dak Prescott, when you have CeeDee Lamb, and when you have George Pickens, you're great offensively. They drafted Caleb Downs to bolster that secondary. I think defensively they're going to be better. They extended Quinnen Williams. They didn't make the playoffs last year. And yes, I get it. That's disappointing. But it was year 1 for Schottenheimer. There's not a lot of patience heading into year 2 in the sense if they don't make the playoffs this year, it's not going to – I don't know what Schottenheimer's outlook is heading into year 3. I think they actually do better than just make the playoffs. I think they win the division. I think they finish 11-6, and that gets them the 2 overall seed in the NFC East. So a little quick breakdown for your NFC East. Cowboys at 1, 11-6. Eagles at 2, 11-6. Cowboys won on the tiebreaker. Both of those teams make the playoffs. Commanders 8-9, Giants 8-9, round up 3-4, and they both miss the playoffs. Okay, I had to check the lines because that's the Lions and the Giants are the 2 teams that screwed up with their record. We should be at 16 games, but what do I care? What do I know? NFC North. Well, last year, the NFC North had 2 teams make the playoffs. It wasn't the Lions and it wasn't the Vikings. It was the Bears and the Packers. So we're going to start with who's coming in 4th, and I'm going to be completely honest. When people ask me when I do a podcast, where can you get burned? Like, where can I come back and look at this in 5 months and be like, wow, I was an idiot? Oh, it's not even particularly close. It could be the NFC West, but it's definitely the NFC North. Like you could give me any 4 of these teams in a certain order, and I would be okay with this. But this is the order we got. Coming in at 4th, who made the playoffs last year and who are going to miss the playoffs this year, is the Green Bay Packers at 9-8. Funny enough, how this worked out, I only have 1 team making the playoffs this year, and that could definitely burn me. Packers at 9-8. I got no explanation for this. I just think they're good. They're not great. And I think they're going to lose a couple close games. Like, I like Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs' situation is a little interesting. I like LaFleur. They missed the playoffs at 9-8. LaFleur might be a little bit of a conversation, but maybe we don't go there. Micah Parsons not coming back until about halfway through the year. I don't love their receiving core. You need a big step up from Christian Watson. The big year 2 for Matthew Golden. Like, I don't know if I love this, and they play in a really tough division. It's 9-8. I'm not going to give a lot of rationale for any of these teams because I think it's such a toss-up. Coming at 3 is the Minnesota Vikings. They were 4th, but the Kyler Murray signing makes them into a chance to make the playoffs. I think Kyler Murray elevates this team. I don't think they get elevated enough into a playoff team. I just don't think they're – I just don't think they're good enough or talented enough to get into the postseason. I don't love what they have at running back, but I do love Justin Jefferson, and I do like Kyler Murray. I do think he's an upgrade and a major upgrade over J.J. McCarthy. We saw them struggle with J.J. McCarthy last year, and they brought in Kyler Murray. First of all, they should have never have let Sam Darnold go, but they did, and they trusted Kyler Murray. They trusted J.J. McCarthy, and that backfired in their face. I like Kyler Murray. I like his upside. I just don't know if they're good enough as a whole to compete in this conference, in this division, but they're 9-8. Like, this division is ridiculously good. They might win this division, and I look like an idiot. And then the Chicago Bears coming in at 10-7, missing the playoffs. You heard it first here. I think my first bold prediction of the season, of the NFC preview, I have the Chicago Bears going 10-7, which is a very good record, and missing the playoffs because of how good this NFC is. I do think we're overhyping what the Bears are heading into 2026. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. And when you're not a great team, you lose close games. You lose games you're not supposed to. And I think you get to a 10-7. Easily could be a 12-win team, but they also could be an 8-win team. Like, they're the 8 to 12 range, and I think I just went to the middle and how it worked out based off of teams factoring in. I predicted every single game, the Bears missed out. But at 10-7, missing the playoffs would be very tough. They could easily be a playoff team, but I have them at 10-7 missing out. And then my division winner, who I had to adjust, is the Detroit Lions. Yes, the Detroit Lions missed the postseason last year after being great for a couple years, just falling short of the Super Bowl. But this year, they make the postseason. They're the 3 overall seed in the NFC. So that rounds out 3 of the 7 teams that are in the playoffs. If you missed it before, Cowboys are the 2 seed, Eagles are the 6 seed, and the Lions are the 3 seed. 3 of the 7 teams come from the North and the East. I like the Lions. You have Jahmyr Gibbs. You have St. Brown. I think Jared Goff. I think this is a kind of a prove-it year for this Detroit Lions team, that the last couple of years weren't a fluke, and last year was not the reality. Last year was an anomaly. Like, last year was not supposed to happen, and last year's not going to start a trend, because I don't think it is, because I am really high on what the Detroit Lions can do this year. Aiden Hutchinson on defense. They're a little banged up in the secondary, so maybe a slow start to the year, losing to the Bills week 2 in Buffalo. But I think Detroit Lions are going to have a really good year. I like the Lions to win this division. Okay, to round it out, Packers at 9-8, finishing 4th in the division. Vikings at 9-8 to finish in 3rd in the division. I think my bold prediction especially so far of this podcast, is the Bears at 10-7, missing the playoffs, and then winning the division. The Lions at 11-6. Like I said before, if there's a division that's going to burn me, it's going to be this one. It's going to be the NFC North. Another division that I can't figure out, and I think we have the same song and dance every year, is the NFC South. The only team that made the postseason last year was from the NFC South, was the Carolina Panthers. They were the 4 seed. They took the Rams to the ropes. Don't maybe not sleep on the Carolina Panthers. And they ended up losing, but they was the only team that made the playoffs out of the NFC South. Let's start 4-2-1. And like I said, I got no idea how this division's going, because it's an absolute crapshoot. But I'm going to be confident. I'm fairly confident in this fact that only one team is making the postseason out of the NFC South. It's the lone division winner, in my opinion. That's what I have, but I think that's my not bold prediction, but I'm fairly confident in that being a reality. Saints 7-10. I ripped the Saints last year. If you remember from last year's podcast, I said they were untalented. I said they were going under their win total. I was kind of wrong on the Saints. They played better than I think most people thought. You bring in Travis Etienne at running back, a pair of him with Kamara. You have Chris Olave at receiver. You have Jordan Tyson at receiver, barring injury. I think it's going to be bigger than you think. And then you had a decent year from Tyler Shuck, who I was very critical of heading into, or when they drafted Tyler Shuck, I was very critical of the Saints. I still think I like their weapons. Defensively, I don't love them. I still think we're a year away from the Saints maybe contending for a playoff spot. I do think they're better. I think they're a 7-10 team. I think they're a competitive team. I think we're a year away from maybe the Saints being a legit thing. But this is a big year, because I think if you're the Saints, you want to come away with it. You want to see what Jordan Tyson is. He needs to be healthy. You want to see what Kellen Moore is at quarterback. But you also kind of want to see Is Tyler Shuck our franchise guy, or was he just a fun guy in year one? Maybe 7-10 kind of leads you in the dark kind of there, but we'll see. I like them finishing fourth. Falcons at 3. Drake London, Bijan Robinson. This team should be better than 7-10 if you have Bijan Robinson and if you have Drake London as your two stars on offense. You put in Kyle Pitts as well. But they're playing around with the quarterback position. They don't know what Michael Penix is. They should have never drafted Michael Penix, in my opinion. I liked Michael Penix coming out of college, but I don't know if he was worth that high of a pick. Then you pair him with another lefty, kind of rare, in Tua Tagovailoa, who cannot stay healthy, who's been good in games that don't matter, but bad in games that do matter, and that gets you to a 7-10 season. I think the Falcons are going to be fun. They're going to be flashy. There's going to be times when you're going to lose to the Falcons because they just overpower you with Bijan Robinson and Drake London. And there's going to be times when you're like, I have no idea what this offense is doing for Atlanta Falcons. But I do think they have some talent where they can be competitive. And they added Kevin Stefanski as a head coach. I think they upgraded their head coach. I still think they're 7-10. But maybe they surprise you and they get some consistent quarterback play. You never know. Maybe all they need is either from Penix or Tua, and I think Tua wins this job, just to be consistent. Because you know what? To be fair to the Falcons, they have not gotten consistent quarterback play in recent years. Maybe Tua adds you consistent quarterback play, and they outperform the 7-10 projection here. Panthers, 9-8, and they missed the playoffs, unfortunately. They made the playoffs last year. They gave the Rams a run for their money. I do think they have a chance to win this division because if you look at what I have the Buccaneers at, it's not by winning by a lot. It's not by winning by much at all. I just don't know. Like, what's the problem with the Panthers is they have a ceiling, and I think they max out at 10 wins. I don't know. Like, they're interesting at running back. Brooks is coming off a couple years of missing, just not playing with injuries. They have Chuba Hubbard at running back. I like Bryce Young. I like Canales. I like McMillan. Leggett hasn't done much. They have good defensive players, some good talented defensive players. J.C. Horn, Derek Brown. They're talented there, but there's a ceiling because I think Bryce Young, kind of like Tua, not going to. And look, Bryce Young's been overhated, and he's been highly criticized. Most of it's fair, some of it's not. But he had a really good 2025. I thought Bryce Young was very solid in 2025. Saved his job, got the Panthers to the postseason. There's a ceiling here with the Panthers. And the ceiling is, I think they max out at 10 wins. And when you max out at 10 wins, there's a chance you win 6 or 7 games there. It's the reality. I think they're a competitive team. I still think they're a good team, but I got them going 9-8 and missing the postseason. And then you throw in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who missed the postseason last year. They make the postseason this year. By default, the number 4 overall seed based off them winning the division. They go 9-8. Like I said, I don't have them winning the division by much. I think it's a toss-up between, I think, any one of these 4 teams, like kind of like the North, but I think a less talent. The South, the NFC South is the same has the same competitiveness as the NFC North, right? They just don't have the high-end talent or the high-end floors or ceilings of these teams that the North does, but it's a very competitive division that anyone could win, and it has been for the last 5 years. But I like the Buccaneers at 9-8. I like Vita Vea thing is a little interesting. If they trade him, that's a hit. Obviously, they don't want to trade him. I trust Baker Mayfield. They didn't make the playoffs last year. I think they make the playoffs this year. This is a big year for Todd Bowles. Basically, playoff or bust, in my opinion, for Todd Bowles if he wants to keep his job. They're talented at receiver. I think they have Chris Godwin's coming back. They have good running backs, Bucky Irving. Let's get Bucky Irving involved. Let's turn Bucky Irving into what he was in 2024, not what he was in 2025. Bucky Irving needs the ball more. Mecca Ibuka could be a star. Jalen McMillan is talented. They still have Chris Godwin. I think they're a good team. They're not a great team. I think this team, whoever wins this division, loses in the wild card round of the postseason. Not to spoil anybody, but I like the Buccaneers to win this division. So let's go through it one more time. The NFC South: Saints 7-10, Falcons 7-10, Panthers 9-8, and the Buccaneers 9-8, winning the division and being the 4 seed. So if you're doing math at home, I said there's 2 teams from the NFC East making the postseason, the Cowboys and the Eagles. Cowboys winning the division. I only had 1 team winning the division or making the playoffs from the NFC North. That was the Lions at 11-6. I only had 1 team making the postseason from the NFC South, that was the Buccaneers at 9-8. So if you're doing math at home, I have 3 teams in the NFC West. You probably can guess those 3 teams. Maybe not to guess the order, but you can guess the 3 teams that make in the postseason. All 3 of these teams did make the postseason last year. Let's start with the bottom feeders. Sorry. We'll start with the NFC West. Yeah, I should have put the NFC West. But we'll start with the bottom feeders. That's this. I was about to call them the St. Louis Cardinals, working on baseball at work. So got baseball in my mind. But Arizona Cardinals at 3-14. I just think this is going to be a terrible year. It's going to be Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if halfway through the year we see Carson Beck at quarterback, just to see what Carson Beck is. They drafted him on day 2 for a reason. Maybe see what he can give you. Maybe he is the future. We don't know. But why not find out this year? Like, this is a year you're not contending with Jacoby Brissett if you play 17 games. I'm sorry. You're just not. They drafted Jeremiah Love, already dealing with an injury. They have good weapons. Like, this is a fun offense. Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison, and Trey McBride. Like, those guys are being wasted away on a really bad team. It's year 1 for Matt LaFleur. It's year 1 for Mike LaFleur, not Matt LaFleur. Year 1 for Mike LaFleur. It's a rebuilding year, but with a really talented kind of 4 offensive players. If your 4 offensive players are Jeremiah Love, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Wilson, you probably should win more than 3 games. They're not. And you also got to factor into it, they're in the hardest division, in my opinion, in football, with the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. That includes the Rams, who made the NFC Championship last year, who just added Myles Garrett. That also includes the Seattle Seahawks, who just dominated the New England Patriots and embarrassed the Patriots on the field and won the Super Bowl. You have to play those teams 6 times. I think that's 6 losses right there. You're already putting yourself behind the 8 ball. I think it's a rebuilding year, but guess what? Is it a bad to go 3-14 and be one of the worst teams in football? Because it's supposed to be a loaded quarterback class next year. You never know, things change. But you bring in a rookie quarterback next year with Jeremiah Love, Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, and Marvin Harrison. I think you have a chance to be a really fun team next year and kind of get out of the basement and start building towards the future. So not a bad year for the Cardinals to be 3-14. Coming in at 3 in the division, but 7th overall seed in the NFC, making the postseason, is the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe they stay healthy. Because I think this team can win the Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl if they can stay healthy. They just have not been able to stay healthy. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, really interesting dynamic there. Receiver, right? Like, Pearsall's out for the year. They don't have Deebo Samuel. No, they do have Deebo Samuel. Sorry. Deebo Samuel's back. Let me look at their depth chart because I'm blanking on it because Brandon Ayuk's doing God knows what Brandon Ayuk is doing. They don't. Oh, yeah. So Christian Kirk, Deebo Samuel, and I mentioned it earlier. They brought in Mike Evans, and they also drafted Deshaun Stribling earlier than I think people thought. But he was a day 2 pick. So receiver-wise, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, and Christian Kirk are your receivers. Kind of a retooled receiving core with Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings no longer being there. Then they drafted Deshaun Stribling in round 2. Biggest thing is health. Can Deebo Samuel Jr. can stay healthy? Can Mike Evans stay healthy? Can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy? Can George Kittle stay healthy? Can defensively, can Fred Warner stay healthy? Can Nick Bosa stay healthy? Like, I think this team is talented enough to win the division. I just don't buy that they can stay healthy, but I buy that they're good enough to withstand injuries to still make the playoffs. I like Brock Purdy. They have a ton of talent. Defensively, they just got to stay healthy. 10-7, 7 seed, and maybe some questions heading into the next year if they fizzle out early just because of what do we do moving forward with Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Fred Warner and Trent Williams. Those guys are aging. Mike Evans only on a 1-year deal, but they're still going to be a really hard team to beat. They're still going to be a really competitive team, and I like them making the playoffs. So who's second? Is it the Rams or is it the defending Super Bowl champions? Well, it's really tough because if you this second seed, I have them finishing 12-5. And 12-5, the Bills were 12-5 last year and didn't win the division. It's tough to go 12-5 and not win a division, but that's going to happen to the defending Super Bowl, not national champions. It's going to happen to the defending Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks, going 12-5. They lose Kenneth Walker. They add Darren Price. They still have JSN. They still have Sam Darnold. I'm just going to go on a limb and say maybe the defense won't be as good as they were last year. Maybe the defense won't be the best in the league. They'll be the 5th best in the league, and that cost them a game or 2. They still go 12-5, but they do have to do what the Rams did last year, be the 5 seed and go on the road in the wild card round. It would be in Tampa. based on this scenario. This is maybe a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover early to start the year. Mike McDonald's such a good coach. I think Sam Darnold's perfect for their system. JSN's one of the best receivers in football. They're like, okay, Kenneth Walker, we don't want to pay you. We'll just draft a running back in Jadarian Price in round one. And good for Jadarian Price and good for the Seahawks because he was behind Jeremiah Love. So he is a little fresher in terms of workload than he got in college than what Jeremiah Love is going to the Cardinals. This team is legit. They just extended Devin Witherspoon on defense in the secondary. Like, they're great. Like, this team's great. They just play in a really hard division with the 49ers and the Rams. 12-5, 5 seed. I just don't think it's a bad year. Maybe a step back. Maybe they're not as good defensively. Like I said, maybe they're not the best defense in the league. They're the 5th best defense in the league, and that cost them a game or two. And now, I'm about to call them St. Louis Rams. The Los Angeles Rams, 14-3, and the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. I'm not going to say I'll be shocked if they're not the number 1 overall seed because, look, it's football. It's 17 games. Injuries happen. You never know. But how would this team not be the number 1 overall seed? I think your answer would be, if I had to choose a reason they're not the number 1 overall seed, but I do have them going as the number 1 overall seed, you know why? It's just their division. You got to play the 49ers twice, and you got to play the Seahawks twice. And maybe another team like the Cowboys or the Eagles or the Lions or the Bears or someone from a different division has a little bit of an easier time in the division. Maybe the division is not as good as it's supposed to be, and they pick up a couple wins, and they're just not – they're the 1 seed. But I still think if the Rams finish 2nd or 3rd in the NFC, they're the best team in the NFC. I think it's just maybe a product of their division. Added Myles Garrett. You added Trent McDuffie. Like, that's a ridiculous offseason. Like a ridiculous offseason if you add Trent McDuffie and if you add Myles Garrett, who had an elite year last year. Their D-line was great last year, and you add Myles Garrett. Their secondary was good last year. Not great, but good. You add Trent McDuffie. That's an improvement. You have Sean McVay, Kyron Williams at running back, and then you have Matthew Stafford, maybe in his last hurrah. Like, everything's on the table for Matthew Stafford. They win the Super Bowl, Matthew Stafford probably retires. Like, might be it, or next year might be it with Matthew Stafford. You kind of saw not the writing on the wall, but they're looking for the future as well when they drafted Ty Simpson in round 1. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. The Rams are absolutely loaded. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl. They're the favorite to come out of the NFC, and they should be. But games aren't played on paper. They're played on the field. But I have the Rams at 14-3 as the number 1 overall seed in the NFC West and the NFC as a whole. Let me know down in the comment section what you think. I'm going to rapid fire through the playoff predictions in a second here, but to go back through the NFC West, Cardinals at 3-14, 49ers at 10-7, Seahawks at 12-5, Rams at 14-3, and that rounds out to the Rams being the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, the Seahawks being the number 5 overall seed, and then the 49ers being the number 7 overall seed. So I wrote this out. Teams that made the playoffs last year but missed in 2025. Teams that made the playoffs this year but teams that I have missing in 2026 that made it in 2025. So the Bears, Packers, and Panthers all made it in 2025. The Lions, Buccaneers, and Cowboys all missed the playoffs in 2020. So, man, I wrote these notes really bad. Bears, Packers, and Panthers all made the playoffs in 2025. I have all 3 of those teams, Bears, Packers, and Panthers, missing it in 2026. The Lions, Buccaneers, and Cowboys all missed the playoffs in 2025. I have them all making it in 2026. So Bears, Packers, and Panthers made it in 2025. I have them missing it in 2026. The Lions, Buccaneers, and Cowboys missed. I'm saying it for me more than you. Lions, Buccaneers, and Cowboys missed the postseason in 2025. I have them making it in the 2026 postseason. We're going to run through this really quickly. Rams get the bye. Wild card round, 7-seed 49ers versus the 2-seed Cowboys. I have the Cowboys advancing. 6-seed Eagles versus the 3-seed Lions. I have the Lions advancing. 5-seed Seahawks versus the 4-seed Buccaneers. I have the Seahawks advancing. So that's the wild card round. Rams get the bye. Cowboys, Lions, and Seahawks advance. Divisional round. Great divisional round matchup here. The number 5 Seattle Seahawks take on the number 1 Rams in a rematch of last year's NFC Championship. I have the Rams advancing, getting vengeance, and we're not going to have a back-to-back Super Bowl champion. I have the Rams advancing over Seattle. And then the other divisional round game, the 3-seed Lions taking on the 2-seed Cowboys. I have the 3-seed Lions advancing. And then in the NFC Championship game, Jared Goff versus Matthew Stafford. We saw this once in the postseason. We're going to see it again. I have the Rams over the Lions in the NFC Championship game, which means I have the Rams representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. You have to watch and listen to the AFC preview in a couple weeks to see who I have them facing off. And coming out of the AFC, Rams going to the Super Bowl. They defeat the Lions in the NFC Championship game. I'm going to run through the divisions one more time here before we get out of here. NFC East. Giants finishing 4th at 7 and sorry, my notes were wrong. Okay, we're going to run through the division one more time and get out of here. Maybe I should fact check myself before I start talking. NFC East, the Giants going 8-9, the Commanders going 8-9, the Eagles making the postseason at 11-6, and the Cowboys winning the division at 11-6. NFC North, Packers 9-8, Vikings 9-8, Bears 10-7. All 3 of those teams surprisingly missed the postseason. My bold prediction of the offseason: Lions winning the division and going 11-6 and going to the NFC Championship game. NFC South, Saints 7-10, Falcons 7-10, Panthers 9-8, Buccaneers 9-8, winning the division and being the lone representative of the NFC South in the postseason. And then to round out the NFC West, Cardinals 3-14, 49ers 10-7, making the postseason. Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions, 12-5, making the postseason. And then the Rams, number 1 overall seed in the NFC West, and the number 1 overall seed in the NFC at 14-3 and making the postseason and representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. And let's see if I can get this one more time. Teams that made the playoffs in 2025, but I have them missing in 2026: Bears, Packers, and Panthers. Teams that missed the postseason in 2025, but I have them making it in 2026: Lions, Buccaneers, and Cowboys. NFC preview, how wrong am I going to be? Let me know that in the comments section. These always go bad and go poorly because it's really hard to predict schedules. But I have the Rams going to the Super Bowl, winning the NFC. And will I be completely wrong on the NFC North? Probably. Could it be completely flipped? Could it be 100%? Could be 3 out of the 4 teams making the postseason? Yeah, I don't know. But NFC West, I got 3 teams postseason. South and North, I have 1 each. And in the East, I have 2 teams making the postseason. Postseason teams in the NFC are Cowboys, Eagles, Lions, Buccaneers, Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. And the worst team, and it's a really competitive team because I have no team under 7 win or conference. I have no team under 7 wins besides the Cardinals at 3-14. They are the worst team in the NFC. That's going to do it for us. Next week, college football preview. The following week will be an AFC preview, and that's going to get you right into the football season. Make sure you guys follow us on social media at Talking Sports PD. I drop social videos. I drop me reacting to stuff. We still have our player rankings of who best players in the NFL at certain positions. We're offensive tackle just came out, so it's not going anywhere. After offensive tackle, we still have tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks. So go over to our social page, Talking Sports PD on X and on Instagram. Please like, please comment, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. A lot of content coming your way, football-wise. Don't go anywhere. And yes, I'm going to be really wrong on these, but it's fun. It's a fun exercise. But yeah, I'm going to be wrong. That's going to do it for me. I talked for about 34 minutes to myself, basically. Enjoy the football season. I'll be back next week for college football. Enjoy the last couple weeks of summer until we get into September. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.